Hey everyone, Teo here. This is my artist review of the Samsung S25 Ultra. First of all, disclaimer, this is not a review unit provided by Samsung. I actually purchased this with my own money. I have just switched over from using an iPhone for 5 years and now I'm back to using Android. And these two, the S25 and the S25 Plus, are from Samsung Singapore, which I have to return very soon. This video is going to be quite long, so if you want to save time, you can check out the text review that I have already written on my blog. The link is in the video description below. In this video, I will focus more on the user experience of drawing on this phone and also writing, and not so much on the hardware because there are so many other reviewers who have already covered the hardware much more comprehensively than what I can do. Let me give you a few reasons why I switched over from using an iPhone to the Samsung S25 Ultra. And the first reason is I wanted to have a digital sketch pad that's with me all the time. So I was actually thinking of buying an iPad mini, but then that would mean I have to bring a phone and a tablet out. So I decided against that and decided to go with the S25 Ultra instead, which is a phone with pen support. So the display is much smaller compared to the iPad mini, but I don't have to bring two devices out. So this is now my phone and also my digital sketchpad. 5 years ago, I switched over from Android to iPhone because of one feature. This feature, the ability to record at 25 frames per second. I'm from Singapore, and here in Singapore, if I record my videos at 24 or 30 FPS, there is a very good chance that the lights in my video will flicker. By lights, I mean lights from fluorescent light bulbs, such as those in buildings, inside your home, in cafes, lights from traffic lights, or even lights from phones, monitors, TVs. With Samsung phone, the default camera app allows you to choose 24, 30, 60, and 120, so there is no 25 or 50 FPS option. It is possible to install third-party video recording apps to record at 25 FPS, but this ability to record 25 FPS was not available before, even with third-party camera apps. I did not buy the S24 Ultra because that phone still has a curved display. But this year, the S25 Ultra has a completely flat display, and that little extrusion there is actually my glass screen protector. So my main reason for switching is because now I can draw anywhere, anytime with this phone. I can actually draw on the iPhone, and I have drawn on the iPhone before using my finger, and I must say that I'm quite good at drawing with my finger. But the thing is, drawing with your finger is not a pleasant experience. It involves a lot of undo because the lines usually do not go where you want them to go. So you have to undo and redraw, undo, redraw. So it's very tedious. Okay, let me just tap here. Yeah, so having proper pen support really helps a lot with drawing, obviously. All right, enough of iPhone versus Samsung. Let's look at the design of the phones. So these designs look kind of similar to the previous year or even the previous years. If the design looks good, you don't really have to change it up that often. So I like this design. This is the S25 and this is the S25 Plus. And you can see these phones look like the iPhone, and you will be right. But there is no obnoxious notch there. It's just a smaller camera cutout, which means the face unlock is not as secure compared to what you can get on the iPhone. So you cannot use this camera to unlock banking apps. So that would be the main difference between the iPhone notch and the punch hole camera on the Samsung. To unlock banking apps or other apps that require high security, you can use the under display fingerprint scanner, which works very fast and effectively. So from the front, The S25 phones definitely look like the iPhone except for the camera, and if you look at the back, it's very different. So this is the S25 with the 6.2-inch AMOLED display, and this is the S25 Plus with 6.7-inch AMOLED display. The weight of this is 162 grams, and this is 190 grams, and the Ultra is 218 grams. So if you're looking for a phone that is more portable, the 6.2-inch model is the one that I would recommend. 6.2-inch is not a small display, it's still a big display, it's just that 6.7 is bigger. If you're switching from a big 6.7, 6.8-inch phone down to a 6.1 or 6.2-inch phone, the keyboard will take some time to get used to, but after a while you will definitely get used to typing on the smaller keyboard. If you want a bigger display or bigger battery capacity, there is the S25 Plus with 6.7-inch display and 4900 mAh battery capacity. The battery for the small one is 4000 and for the Ultra it's 5000. If you want pen support, and the main selling point of the Ultra is actually the pen support, then there's the Ultra. If you do not need the pen from the Ultra, just go with the Plus or the smaller model. Oh, another missing feature from the two non-Ultra models is there is one less camera. So on the Ultra, there is the ultra wide 3x tele and 5x tele camera lens. On the smaller models, you only get ultra wide, and the 3x camera. The extra 5x telephoto lens is nice to have, but it's not a must buy for me. Oh, one downside to the design this year is the camera lens ring. There is actually a gap between the camera lens ring and the body, so dust can go between. So if you want to buy a case, buy one with individual camera cutouts so that can prevent dust from going between the lens and the body. Other design differences would be the Ultra has a smaller rounded off corner, and the corners for the S25 and S25 Plus are more rounded. The build quality for all three phones is extremely solid. The speaker at the top is almost hidden. Even if I look real close, I can barely see the speaker. And there is another speaker at the bottom, and the audio quality from these two speakers is amazing. There is good clarity, good treble, not much of bass, but the overall quality, the audio quality is just amazing. This is the card tray that can hold 2 nano SIM cards, and this of course is the S Pen holder. You can press this to pop out the pen and just pull this out. And because this pen can be stored with the phone all the time, you will not be able to forget to bring the phone. And if you do forget to bring the phone will actually give you an alert to tell you that the S Pen has been left behind. This USB-C port supports video output, has transfer speed of 3.2 and can charge at 45 watts. Let's take a closer look at this display, which is an AMOLED 2X display with maximum brightness up to 2600 nits. The resolution is 1440 by 3120 and the refresh rate is adaptive 120 Hz. And you can choose to run this display at lower resolution to get better battery life. I have already applied a glass screen protector on my phone, so I cannot show you the original anti-reflective coating, but let me show you this photo comparing the anti-reflective coating to a glossy reflective screen. So the difference is actually very obvious. By the way, if you see any differences between the brightness of the display, that's actually due to the auto brightness. So this year, the S25 Ultra has a completely flat display. All three phones have flat displays. Now, if this phone still has the curved display, I will not be buying the phone. In terms of handling, this phone feels heavy because it's 218 grams. And the corners are, I would say, rather sharp with slight bevel to the edges. I mean, it's okay to hold, but I would highly recommend you get a case for protection and also for better handling. Now this 6.9 inch size is actually considered small for drawing because this display is small, relatively speaking, compared to bigger tablets. When drawing, I find that I have to zoom out to check the perspective and composition and zoom in again to draw, zoom in and out repeatedly more often compared to drawing on a larger tablet. So that's just the way it is when it comes to working on such a small display. When drawing, sometimes I may hold the phone like this or like this. Sometimes I may have my hand resting on the side here. Sometimes I may draw with my hand off from the screen. Sometimes I may hold the phone vertically depending on the subject that I am drawing. And if I'm holding the phone vertically, my hand will not be resting on the display. So the challenging thing about drawing on the phone is when you do not rest your phone or hand on any surface, drawing can be challenging because there are two moving parts. Right now it's okay because my hand is actually resting on the table, so it's not too bad. But if you are holding the phone and pen like this and drawing, it is challenging. So my palm does not have a place to rest. So when I'm drawing, my lines are actually more wobbly than usual. I can still join the lines properly without any issue. It's just that drawing straight lines is kind of challenging. Now the S Pen actually works pretty well for drawing. I'll talk more about this later. But the main constraint here really is the size of the display. If I switch this to horizontal or landscape orientation, and I'm drawing a vertical subject, I have to make this much smaller. So you have to turn the phone depending on what subject you are using. Now in landscape orientation, it's a bit easier because I can now rest my palm on the display and the palm projection works pretty well. Let me show you this sketch that I drew the other day while I was having lunch at this cafe. So let me just hide the colors so that I can show you the line art. So I started drawing from the left and then move my way to the right. I did have some drafting lines down first because this is a wide scene, so I need the drafting lines to help me get the composition, because when I'm drawing, I'm actually focused on drawing on a small area. So I don't know how the perspective is going to look until I zoom out. So having those drafting lines down first before I sketch helps a lot. And here's a closer look. You can see the lines are not straight. This line is not straight. This vertical line is not straight. And since this scene is a wide scene, I was holding my phone horizontally and I was at the table, so I can rest my hand on the table and hold my phone rather steadily. So it's still quite challenging to draw this, but as long as my hand is resting on some surface, it's easier to sketch. Let's move here to the right side. Let's just zoom in and have a look at these people. One thing I noticed about drawing on a small display is I can't add that much detail. Yeah, because the screen is so small, I feel like I can't add as much detail compared to when I'm drawing on a bigger display. And this is how the sketch looks with some warm grays added. I didn't have time to color this, so I only use warm grays to create the value. And this sketch probably took me about 1.5 hours to sketch. Yeah, and because drawing on a phone is more challenging, I made more mistakes, and so I had to undo and redraw some of the lines quite often. So yeah, it takes more time to draw the same scene on a small phone compared to on a bigger tablet. But the main selling point, as mentioned earlier, is the phone is always with you. So while having lunch, I can just pull out the pen and draw on the phone, draw with the phone. Drawing organic subjects where there are no straight lines would be easier. So this was a sketch drawn on the train while I was commuting to work, and I was standing and sketching. So I didn't really have much issue. The pen definitely is moving around a bit more because the train carriage is like moving, and I'm holding the phone like this without any support. My other hand is also free, so there are two moving parts, so it's kind of challenging to control the pen. This app that I'm using is Concepts, and it has this minimal user interface design where you can hide the layers or hide the tool wheel, just drag it and push it to the bottom here. So this gives you more space to work with for drawing. Drawing on a phone definitely will take some time to get used to. I have also thought of buying the Z Fold 6 or the upcoming Z Fold 7, but I'm not sure how durable the folding mechanism is even after 6 or 7 generation. I just feel that having a phone in a single piece like this is going to be more durable. And also the camera quality from this phone is going to be better compared to the folding phones. Let's take a closer look at the S Pen. So this year, Samsung removed the Bluetooth feature. Now I do not have the previous phone with the pen that has Bluetooth, so I cannot tell you how useful that feature is, but there are of course many people who are upset about that missing Bluetooth feature. For me, I just use the pen to draw or write, so I don't need Bluetooth. The pen supports 4000 levels of pressure sensitivity, tilt sensitivity, and palm rejection. Now, because this pen is so thin and so small, when drawing or writing, it feels like I am drawing or writing with a toothpick. That's how small the S Pen is when compared to the S Pen that comes with the Samsung tablets. And for this sketch that took me 1.5 hours to complete, I actually was drawing with this pen, which is much bigger, and this is more comfortable to hold. I have tried to draw with this small pen for extended periods of time, and I feel like my hand would cramp up because of how small the pen is. This is matte textured, and there is this side here which is flat and wider. This side here is more narrow, so this is the flatter side to hold. There is one side button which may or may not be customizable depending on the app you use. This pen tip is soft, so when you're tapping on the phone, there is no sharp tapping sound. And the pen tip is actually quite smooth on the display, so this is going to glide around quite easily. It's not slippery, but it definitely glides around more easily compared to drawing on a textured surface. So if you draw fast, it can be more challenging to control the pen. So if you want more accuracy, you have to draw a bit slower, which is expected. So for this sketch, even though I have the S Pen with me inside the phone, I actually still brought out an extra pen because this is just more comfortable to hold and gives me more control when drawing. I received this pen as a free gift from some company, and it looks like a fountain pen. There is no side button, which is a bummer because having a side button is actually very convenient. When you're drawing on such a small phone and you hide the user interface, having an extra shortcut button on the pen is going to help a lot. And I like this pen because it has a cap. If I were to bring this S Pen out, the one without the cap, I'm afraid of damaging the pen tip when it's in my bag or in my pocket. So I prefer to have a pen that has a cap. And recently I purchased this Pilot Dr. Grip digital pen, which has this retractable design, which is actually more convenient compared to this one with the cap, because with the retractable design, I don't have to keep the cap. I can just pop out the pen tip to draw. So this is actually very convenient. But the downside here is there is no side button as well. This is another pen that I have that uses Wacom EMR as well. And this is the Lamy AL Star pen. And this comes with a side button. So this is actually quite convenient to work with for drawing, because when you're drawing and you want to select stuff or you want to erase, you can press the side button to select or erase depending on how you customize the button. So having this extra button is very convenient. By the way, I'm going to make a comparison review of all the pens with Wacom EMR very soon. So do subscribe to my YouTube channel and watch out for that video when it appears. This last pen is the one that I bought very recently, and this comes with a side button and an eraser. So this is even more convenient compared to all these pens here. I can probably find a cap to put here to protect the pen tip when I have this inside my bag. But this is really convenient. Did I mention that palm rejection works really well? So with this side button, if I want to select this to delete, I can just press it, select this, and just delete that and redraw it. So I don't have to use my other hand or even this hand to double tap to undo. I can just select the select tool just by pressing this button, so it doesn't break my workflow. By the way, this display is laminated, so when you are drawing, there is almost no gap between the line and the pen tip. So when you are drawing, it really looks like the line is appearing directly beneath the pen tip. One downside or limitation when drawing is when the pen tip is near the display, you can see the cursor, which is actually a good thing. Now, depending on the drawing app you use, you may or may not be able to disable or hide the cursor. Now, when the pen is near the display, you cannot use your finger to switch between the tools because palm rejection is working. So if you want to switch tools, you have to move the pen further away and then switch tools. So now I can switch between the different tools, and if the pen is near, I can't use my finger. So this is going to affect your workflow, but this is something you can get used to very easily. I feel like I have to mention this because when you draw with an Apple Pencil and the Apple Pencil tip is touching the glass or very near the glass, you can still use your finger gestures, but you can't do that with the Samsung S Pen or the S Pen alternatives. Let's take a look at some other sketches that I have drawn. So this was drawn with a reference photo. And due to the small display, I started by drawing this rather small, so when I tried to zoom in, it became quite difficult for me to add more details. So when you actually zoom in to look at the details, it looks like a very simplified sketch. Now the zooming in and out is quite fluid. And this app is vector based, so I can zoom in all the way and all the details will still remain sharp. The drawing experience, once you get used to it, is actually quite smooth, pretty straightforward. Let's take a look at another sketch. This was also drawn with the help of a reference photo. So if you have UI elements on the display like the layers palette or this tool wheel, they are going to take up space on the display, and that will leave you with less space to work with for drawing. This sketch is quite detailed. It's not that difficult to draw in the sense that this is not a wide scene, so if I zoom down like this, I can already see the whole scene. But when you're drawing with a wide scene, chances are you probably will have to hold a phone in landscape orientation so that you can see more of your scene, so that you can get an idea of how the perspective and the composition looks while you are drawing. Here's another sketch that I drew while having lunch at this Thai boat noodles restaurant or shop. So the straight lines are not that straight because it's kind of difficult to control the pen on such a small display. Yeah, because the pen tip glides around easily, and depending on which pen you use, if you use this pen, small pen, it's going to be even more difficult to control. So we can see this lady checking her phone. Now if I'm not drawing, if I don't have a phone with pen support, I will be like this lady. I will be just doom scrolling on social media. But since now I have a phone with pen support, I can sketch, and instead of wasting my time on social media, I can create sketches like this. And I do so when I am having lunch, whenever I have some free time. Here is another sketch during dinner time, and I also sketch while commuting on the train, or if I am waiting, for example, if I am waiting at a clinic, at a doctor, hospital, I can spend time sketching instead of just doom scrolling on social media. So some of the sketches were drawn on location and some were drawn from reference photos, such as this one. If I zoom out and have a look, let me just do this 4-finger tap, okay, to hide the UI. If I zoom out, the sketch looks nice. If I zoom in, you can see the lines are very wobbly, very sketchy. Yeah, anyway, when you're drawing on a new device, regardless of the device, it will take some time to get used to. And this was drawn with the Concepts app as well. And if you guys want to learn more about drawing with this app, I actually have several tutorials on YouTube that you can check out, if I remember to link them in the video description below. I'm not sure how much time I want to spend talking about note-taking features, because I'm still thinking whether I should make a separate video talking just about note-taking. Anyway, let me give you some very brief introduction to note-taking on this phone. When the screen is powered off, you can pull out the pen and you can just tap on it and you can start writing. So this is kind of convenient. And when you're writing, you're actually using Samsung Notes. So for me, I prefer to use my own note-taking app. So I will go into Concepts. Since this phone is running on Android and there is Google Play Store, you can just install any note-taking app that you prefer. And the note-taking performance of this phone is fantastic because this can capture my handwriting very well. If you tap in a text box, or if your pen is near a text box, you can see this cursor appears and you can use the pen to write. So this is very convenient if you are already holding the pen. One feature I highly recommend you disable if you have intention to draw on this phone is Air Command, which is actually this shortcut button here. When drawing, I have the tendency to click this button and this pop-up menu will appear in front of the drawing and I have to tap away. And also, I just don't use Air Command. And the third reason to disable this is when you are using Air Command, you cannot customize this button with your drawing apps. So earlier, I was able to erase or select with this side button, but with Air Command, I can't do that now with this drawing app or with other drawing apps. Let's talk about performance. So this phone is using the Snapdragon 8 Elite processor, which is kind of powerful. And overall performance is smooth, lag-free. You can open many apps, you can multitask, you can have many layers with your drawing apps, and the phone will still run very smoothly, fast and lag-free. You can get this phone with up to 1 terabyte of internal storage, and this phone has 12 gigs of RAM, so all the apps can hold in memory, and the next time you open the app, it's very unlikely for the app to reload. And this phone, of course, can handle graphics-intensive games without any issues, and huge games can load very quickly too. Other software features that I like: you can install Good Lock, which will give you even more customization for the Samsung settings. I find this each panel shortcut very useful, very convenient, because you can have this each panel by the side here at all times, so you can have access to all your favorite apps at all times. This phone has many AI features, but I do not use any of them, so I can't say much about AI. Another software feature that I really love is Samsung DeX. So when you connect your phone to a monitor with USB-C video support, you can use your phone as a computer, and you can use your phone display as a touchpad to move the cursor around. So you just need to install or connect a keyboard and you can use this as your computer. And if your monitor is a touch screen, you can use the touch screen as well. So Samsung DeX is actually quite useful, especially for people who do not need to use specific desktop software from Mac or Windows. So if you are just using your phone for simple computing, for example, web browsing, watching videos, checking email, typing some documents, you can do all that with the phone as your computer. Battery life of this phone is good. So I've been using this phone for almost 3 weeks now, and based on the statistics that I have here and some calculations, I can get at least 7.5 hours of battery life easily. And of course, the battery life will vary depending on the brightness of the display and also what you are doing. Now, when I am drawing with the phone, I don't feel like the battery is draining that fast. In fact, I feel like the battery endurance is pretty good. Downsides, I find that the Gmail notification on Samsung phones is not instant. For example, if I try to send this email from Outlook to Gmail, it's sent. Oh, okay. Today is not too bad. The Gmail notification came in almost at the same time for these two phones, Samsung and iPhone. But if you search online, you will find that many people have problems with slow Gmail notifications, but today I'm not successful at showing you that. And that's great for me because it seems like my problem has been fixed. But this is a long time problem that has been around for a very long time. Another downside or limitation that I have is with recording videos. So as mentioned earlier, the default camera app from Samsung cannot record at 25 FPS. So I'm using Blackmagic camera app to record at 25 FPS. But this camera does not have access to the ultra wide angle lens. And also I find that the stabilization doesn't work as well. And also if you want the cinematic mode where you can have blurred background, that doesn't work with this app too. But I have to use this app because it can record at 25 FPS. The camera has another downside. For some reason, there is no way to disable the shutter sound when taking photos, but there is a workaround. So when you go into settings, under modes and routines, you can set up a routine to enable do not disturb when the camera app is open. And when you close the camera app, do not disturb will be disabled and you get other notification sounds. You have to set this to do not disturb. If you set it to mute, it does not work for some reason. I have seen reports of people talking about overheating issues with their phone, and I had overheating issues with my phone for the first 2 days, but on the third day and now 3 weeks later, the phone just runs fine, cool, without any heat. Oh, another downside is because I've switched over from using an iPhone to Samsung and I'm using Mac at home, now I cannot airdrop files from my phone directly to my Mac. So if I have to transfer files directly from the Samsung phone to my Mac, I have to transfer the file to Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive and then open that file from Google Drive or OneDrive on my Mac. If you want to send files from an Android phone to Windows, you can use this feature called Nearby Share. If you want to send files from Android phone to other phones, you can use this feature called Quick Share, and you can generate a QR code. This will upload that file to Samsung's server and will stay there for 1 or 2 days if I remember correctly. So with this QR code, you can actually let someone else scan it. So I'm using the iPhone to scan the QR code. And this will allow the file to be downloaded on the phone that scans the QR code. So this is actually very convenient. But if you want to send a file from an iPhone to an Android phone, well, there is no direct send. You either have to upload it to a cloud server, or you can send it through Gmail or send it through Messenger, WhatsApp. There's no direct send. You have to send it through something and then send it to the Android phone. So with this Quick Share QR code, the person who wants to download your phone does not have to install any app. Alright, to conclude, the S25 series of phones, in my opinion, are lackluster updates compared to previous phones. So if you have a phone from 2, 3, or even 4 years old that's still working well today, I don't think there is any compelling reason to upgrade to the new phones. But if you happen to be in the market to buy a phone, and if you look at the phone as it is, it's a great phone. So I'm very happy that this year they finally have the completely flat display. So now I finally can switch over, and now I have a digital sketch pad that I can bring around with me at all times. So this is really convenient. So this is my artist review, and if you guys have other questions, let me know in the comment section below. And if you have been drawing on phones, let me know what your experience is like, and also share your experience with others in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. See you guys again. Bye.